Hi, I'm Katie McGee. We are here in Denver at the broadcast studio at GBTA Convention 2025, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to Stephen Dooley, CEO of Roamr. Stephen, nice to have you here.
Yeah, very good to be here. Good morning.
Good morning. It's first time at GBTA. Welcome.
Yeah, it's been amazing. So we're absolutely delighted. Hopefully we'll be back year on year. We're meeting some veterans here who are talking about 40 years that they've been going. So we're on the earlier side of that one.
It is the place to be, and you're starting new traditions. Roamr helps with what you call the 3 C's: cost, culture, and carbon. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think 2 of them are really quick and easy to explain, and that would be the cost and carbon piece. For cost, what we do is we help companies save 30% on travel accommodation every single time someone books a trip. So how Roamr works essentially is if you're traveling for work, instead of staying in a hotel, you can stay with a friend or a colleague or a family member, and we'll split the money that the company would have spent on the hotel such that the traveling employee earns 30%, the host earns 30%, and the company saves 30%. So depending on how they currently price, that's how we will price the alternative. So we guarantee that 30% every time. In terms of the carbon piece, we've got early study research back that says we're about 80 to 90% better from a CO2 emissions perspective than a hotel stay. Right? We're kind of activating dormant space rather than open up a whole new hotel room. I think the culture one is a little bit more nuanced, but probably more relevant today. Right? We have teams who are more distributed than they've ever been. So the challenge in this distributed workforce is meeting in person, creating that rapport and connection. So the way that we try and do that is we facilitate it by having travel be cheaper so we can do more of those trips, but also the experience in and of itself, right? If you're hosting a colleague, if you're showing them around town, a lot more connection gets built in the informal moments, we think, than in the office.
What a fantastic idea. I like that. What's changing in travel, and why has that led to Roamr being adopted so widely?
Yeah, I think lots is an interesting point, right? That's the way we answer how to travel, or what's changing in travel. But I think specifically for us, what we're seeing is the way that budgets are now being spent are very different to how it was pre-COVID. So, the reference point we have is out of all of we think of travel as a slice of pie, right? And the biggest slice of that pie used to be customer visits, right? It was about 28% of the total travel spend. That's actually kind of regained to about 27% since COVID. But what we've seen is internal team meetings has passed out that customer visit spend. So 33% of the total travel spend now is to bring team members together in person in the offices. The reason for that is to build culture, collaboration, make sure that we're all rowing in the same direction. So that's a really interesting nuance. And then you add to that the fact that we're more distributed. It's kind of becoming a challenge, right? The further apart we grow, the more expensive it is, but the more need and intentionality we need to bring those folks together. So that's one major piece. I think the other stuff is the advancement of these kind of rewards and incentive systems. So you have companies that are using this in maybe hotel spend or choosing more sustainable options. They try to incentivize their employees to do the right thing and make the right decision that benefits the company. I think sometimes some of them are more beneficial for the company than the employees. So there's a behavior change thing that we need to get right. And hopefully by us having a fair incentive across the board, the company saves as much as the employees earn. Hopefully we'll be able to achieve a little bit more of that as well.
It's always good to have goals.
Exactly.
Right? What are some interesting use cases on how companies are using the Roamr platform?
Loads of them. I think there's probably, to break it down, you'd probably put it in 3 brackets, right? You have people who stay with friends and family and people they know really well and personally. So I went to London to another one of the travel shows recently. I stayed with one of my best friends from college, but I haven't really connected with him much over the last couple of years. So it's nice. You wake up in the morning a little bit early, grab your coffee, have a chat, go away to work for the day. Came home, ordered Lebanese food and hung out and got to hang out and catch up with him. So that's a real nice way, right? You're essentially getting paid to hang out with the folks that you're probably going to meet when you're traveling in town anyway.
You can't beat that, yeah.
I think the other one would be internal company stuff. So a great example is one of our customers, Protex AI. They are a hyper growth company. They've just done a crazy Series B. They're a YC-backed company. But what they do is they use Roamr for their summer parties, their team meetups. So they've got HQ in Dublin. Well, they've now got folks in London, Boston, all across the States, I would say, in the next year. But they bring them together in the office quite regularly. So it's a hybrid model. So they're trying to bring people into the Dublin HQ. That's pretty expensive. But we've even had some of the founders hosting some of their colleagues. Both of them get paid and a bit of a kickback, but they get to bring more people to the headquarters. Within that company as well, we've seen folks stay with their friends as well and go to those events. Or another great example would be a cross-company within the Roamr network. So we've had examples where company employees will host another person from the network. One great example, even within that company, Protex again, was they did a podcast subsequent to that event. So Muireann hosted DIPAC. They got to know each other and subsequently built like an actual working professional relationship that's led to positive outcomes for the company. So it's quite interesting to see the broad spectrum. I think because we launched our Roamr for Friends extension of the model kind of in February, that's pretty new, but we're seeing more and more. I just saw one this morning come through, a trip invite, 2 folks we'd never seen or heard of before, heard about us in, I don't know, social media or online somewhere, and they've gone and booked a Roamr for Friends day. So it's exciting.
Look at that. Oh, this is exciting to watch. I can't wait for you to come back next year, and we'll see what growth you've seen over this past year. Super exciting stuff. Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
What a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. Hopefully we'll be able to use Roamr when we get back next year. I'm staying here in Denver. We're using the platform, so we're eating our own dog food, as they say. So fingers crossed we'll be able to do the same there.
All right, let's see what happens.
Thank
you so much for joining us. My name is Katie McGee. We are here in Denver at the broadcast studio at GBTA Convention 2025. Thanks for joining us.